Yes, hello. So today you are reading Frederick Douglass, the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave. I believe that many, if not most of you, have read this in your high school. I just know this from the time that I've taught this class before. So if you have, I hope you enjoy reading it again. And if you have not, well, this is definitely something that everybody should read. It's a very important text, so this is a good opportunity for you to read it. So as you probably are aware, Frederick Douglass was born as a slave in the antebellum South before the Civil War. He ended up becoming one of the most famous advocates for abolition, and he personally knew Abraham Lincoln, and he helped to convince Lincoln that the Civil War should be promoted in the North as not just a war to prevent secession, but as a way of ending slavery. And he was able to win over large audiences with the way that he wrote and with the way that he spoke. He was an incredibly powerful orator and an excellent writer, and you'll see that coming through in his writing here. So, that's the background about Frederick Douglass. When you read through this, pay attention to how he manages to bring the experiences of slavery to life so clearly. What scenes does he focus on? What deeply powerful human connections does he establish? How do you think this would have affected contemporary readers at the time? And how does it affect you today? And try and inhabit both of those places if you can. Imagine that he was writing this for an audience at the time when slavery had not been abolished. So how would an audience have responded to this, and what were the specific details that he gave to really make you feel what he was trying to convey? Also, pay attention to the turning points in Douglass's life. There's a few very important major turning points. They involve particularly his introduction to education and when he realizes the power of education. And there's also a moment of physical confrontation that's very important when he stands up to this man who is a kind of a slave breaker who he's been sent to because he refuses to be subordinate to take orders. He stands up to this guy, and it's this kind of psychological battle of wills that happens. And then when he's writing, he's also always very conscious of the fact that he was so lucky, essentially, that he had these small windows of opportunity, because for most of the people who were enslaved, such opportunities just never arose. So he was now having to speak on behalf of all these other people who could not speak for themselves. And pay attention also to some of the sociological studies that he does. He talks about, for instance, the kind of cruel and twisted way that slave owners would give slaves a short period of time of freedom around Christmas, and then give them lots of alcohol and try and make their very short patch of freedom not comfortable and almost repulsive in a way. So they pushed them to try and feel like freedom was not actually something that they wanted, because they'd only had this very distorted and limited taste of freedom. So he has this capacity for operating on all these different levels, writing a very human, intimate story, and also analyzing the broader system that he's a part of from a higher kind of technical perspective, and able to use very powerful evocative language to get his message across. So those are all things you can pay attention to when you're reading it. Also, again, bring in your own thoughts and ideas, comment on specific parts of the text. I look forward to reading your responses.